Every spring, the same cycle repeats in American gardens. Nursery flats in the trunk. The same empty beds filled again, the same plants gone by October, and the whole thing starting over next April. Most gardeners run that cycle for years without questioning it. But 13 plants on today's list break it completely. They drop seed at the end of the season, and new plants come back on their own without another trip to the garden center. These are 13 self-seeding plants to put in the ground this June, including one whose compound is still used in heart medicine today, more than 200 years after doctors first documented its use. Let's count them down. Number 13. Purple Coneflower. Goldfinches planted for you. Tall flowers with burnt orange drooping petals pulling back from a raised copper-brown central cone, standing 3 to 4 feet tall and blooming July through September, spreading across any open border in naturalistic drifts that look nothing like anything you deliberately placed there. In 1887, a Nebraska patent medicine salesman named H.C.F. Meyer introduced echinacea to Eastern physicians who had never heard of it. Within 20 years, it was the best-selling botanical remedy in the United States. Then, antibiotics arrived. American goldfinches eat the seed cones through winter, carrying seeds on unpredictable flight paths. Each landing becomes a new plant. No two seasons produce the same colony shape. A 2015 meta-analysis in The Lancet Infectious Diseases reviewed 24 randomized trials, measuring 58% fewer colds and 26% shorter illness duration. Full sun, well-drained soil. Zones 3 through 9. Scatter seed in June directly over bare ground. Winter has already done the cold stratification. Leave seed heads standing through December. Cut stems to 6 inches after first frost, not to the ground. Within 3 seasons, one plant becomes a self-managing colony that needs nothing from you. Number 12. Blackeyed Susan. Jefferson grew it for bees. Golden yellow ray petals radiating from a deep brown central dome on stiff 2 to 3 foot stems. Blooming without pause from June through September on 0 supplemental water. Continuing to flower through drought years when every plant around it has already given up. Thomas Jefferson grew Rudbeckia hirta at Monticello in 1807. His garden records show it as one of 3 native wildflowers he deliberately cultivated to support pollinators, not for visual effect. He understood that exchange well before anyone measured it. When wind bends the dried stems in fall, the seed heads shatter and scatter seeds in a wide circle around the base of each plant. No gardener required, no intervention needed. A University of Maryland study tracked 14 native wildflower species across 5 full growing seasons. Rudbeckia hirta hosted 47 specialist bee species, more than any other plant in the trial. Full sun. Any soil, including clay. Zones 3 through 10. Scatter seed in June once the soil reaches 65 degrees. Do not cover. Seeds need light to germinate. Leave 30% of seed heads standing after bloom. Deadhead the rest. In zones 7 and warmer, expect a second generation of flowers to appear in September. Number 11. California poppy closes its petals every dusk. Silky orange-gold petals above feathery blue-green foliage at 12 inches tall. Closing at dusk every evening without exception and reopening by dawn. Available in cream, red, and bicolored forms alongside the standard orange. And once established, asking for nothing you would recognize as care. Spanish navigators in the 1700s named the California coastline the Land of Fire for the orange glow visible from the open sea. That glow was Eschscholzia californica. The gold rush of 1848 to 1855 brought thousands who walked straight through those same fields. Each plant produces 40 to 60 seed pods over a single season. The pods split open with force when dry, scattering seeds up to 4 feet. A single colony doubles every year under good conditions. UC Davis Department of Entomology in 2019 documented California poppy supporting 28 native bee species across Central Valley study plots, including 6 specialist species found nowhere else in the region. Full sun, dry or sandy soil. Zones 6 through 10. Broadcast seed in June across open ground. Do not transplant. The taproot does not tolerate disturbance. No irrigation needed. Let 80% of seed pods ripen fully before cutting. In zones 8 and above, colonies carry through mild winters as semi-perennials. Remove 20% of plants each year to keep the colony from crowding itself out. Number 10. Hollyhock. Ottoman apothecaries scented west. Vertical flower spikes to 8 feet tall, opening from base to tip in white, yellow, pink, burgundy, and near black, with the plant spending its first season as a low-leaf rosette and the second as the tallest self-seeder in most American cottage gardens. Thomas Jefferson listed Alcea rosea in his 1794 Monticello Journals, noting it needed no management past the initial planting. The plant had traveled through Ottoman trade routes in the 15th century before reaching Virginia. Each spike drops 200 to 300 seeds directly below as the blooms finish. Seeds germinate at the foot of the old stem. Over several seasons, the plant slowly migrates in one direction across the border. Colorado State University Extension in 2021 recorded germination rates of 85 to 92% in zones 3 through 9 when seeds were surface sown without covering. The painted lady butterfly, Vanessa cardui, relies on hollyhock as a larval host plant during its annual migration of up to 9,000 miles across North America. Needs full sun to part shade, average to poor soil. Rich soil favors foliage over flowers. Zones 3 through 9. Sow seed in June. Rosettes form this season. Towers next year. Space 18 inches. Cut flower stalks only after the seed capsules have browned. Leave the lowest 4 or 5 capsules on each stalk to open and fall naturally. In spring, thin whatever seedlings emerged and keep the ones where you want them. Number 9. Columbine. Never the same color twice. Nodding. Spurred flowers in bicolored combinations of yellow-red, purple-white, and blue-cream on 18 to 30-inch stems above ferny, delicate foliage. Blooming through May and June with individual flowers lasting 2 to 3 weeks and generating a different color combination from every seed that germinates. Hildegard von Bingen described Aquilegia in her medical compendium Physica, written around 1150 to 1160 CE, recommending it as a topical treatment only. She was right to limit it. Modern analysis has since confirmed the plant contains cyanogenic glycosides that make internal use genuinely hazardous. Each flower produces a dry seed case with 40 to 50 seeds, requiring 90 days of cold to germinate, a requirement winter meets naturally. When different Aquilegia species cross-pollinate, offspring carry unpredictable colors. No 2 generations ever look alike. A 2018 study from the Rocky Mountain Biological Laboratory tracked 60 Aquilegia specimens over 4 years and recorded an average of 12 distinct color types arising from a single color starting population within 3 generations. In eastern gardens, the ruby-throated hummingbird, Archilochus colubris, is the primary pollinator, with spur length precisely matched to the bird's bill reach. Part shade to full sun. Moist, well-drained soil. Zones 3 through 9. Scatter seed in June and do not cover. Thin to 12 inches. Let plants naturalize along woodland edges where they perform best. Do not deadhead. Columbine sets seed as its primary way of reproducing. Give it 3 full years to build a self-sustaining stand that carries on without replanting. Number 8. Viola. Shakespeare named it, nature kept it. Tiny tricolored faces in purple, white, and yellow, each about 1 inch across, on compact 4 to 8 inch plants that root themselves into cracks between paving stones, along the base of stone walls, and through the gaps that every other plant in the garden has left behind. Shakespeare called this flower love in idleness in A Midsummer Night's Dream. John Gerard's Herbal of 1597 described it as a skin remedy, and later served as the first planting reference for colonial American gardeners. Viola tricolor is now documented naturalizing in all 50 states. The seed pods dry, twist, and fire seeds up to 6 feet from the parent plant. A single Viola tricolor produces 50 to 100 seeds per season. In good conditions, one plant becomes more than 30 in a single growing year. Pennsylvania State University Extension in 2020 documented Viola tricolor germinating at soil temperatures as low as 45 degrees, giving it a self-seeding window that opens weeks before most plants in the garden can respond. The variegated fritillary butterfly, Euptoeta claudia, feeds on Viola tricolor to complete its larval development across its range through all of the continental United States. Grows in full sun or full shade, any well-drained soil, zones 3 through 9. Scatter seed in June for fall blooms. No thinning needed. Let them fill gaps between larger plants at their own pace. To manage the spread, pull half the plants before seed pods ripen. Left alone, they navigate root zones on their own and tend to stay out of established plantings. Number 7. Valerian. World War II bomb shelters stockpiled this. Rounded clusters of tiny white to pale pink flowers rising on 3 to 5 foot stems above pinnate leaves that give off a faintly sharp scent when broken. Blooming from June through August and spreading in clumps that widen by 12 to 18 inches each year without being asked. During the London Blitz of 1940 and 1941, British herbalists distributed Valeriana officinalis root extracts to civilians in underground stations because pharmaceutical sedatives were rationed for military use. Dioscorides had prescribed the same root for epilepsy in 1st century Greece, and the instinct was right. Each flower cluster produces hundreds of featherweight seeds fitted with a pappus, carried by wind the way dandelion seeds travel. They germinate within 10 days in warm soil. In zones 4 through 9, Valerian colonizes roadsides on its own. A 2006 meta-analysis in the American Journal of Medicine pooled 16 clinical trials with 3,522 participants and found valerian extracts improved sleep quality in 9 of 16 cases, with no adverse effects at standard doses. The luna moth, Actius luna, and other night-flying insects feed on valerian after dark. Pale flowers and evening fragrance draw pollinators that most garden plants never see. Full sun to part shade. Moist soil preferred. Zones 4 through 9. Sow in June. Germination in 10 to 14 days. Space 24 inches. In zones 7 and above, the plant spreads into surrounding ground on its own. Remove spent flower heads from half the plant to limit spread. Leave the other half to self-direct. Harvest roots only from plants in their 2nd year. Divide the crown in early spring of year 3. Number 6. Verbena bonariensis. Piet Odolph chose it first. Branching stems 4 to 6 feet tall on stalks so slender they read almost as invisible. Topped with clusters of violet-purple flowers, creating a transparent quality through a full border planting that lets you see every plant behind it while still drawing the eye forward. Bonariensis means from Buenos Aires, where the plant was first collected. Introduced to European gardens in the 1700s, it remained a background plant until Piet Oudolph placed it at the center of the High Line in New York City, opened in 2009. Each stem produces 30 to 50 seed clusters. The seeds are feather-light and travel on wind. In zones 7 and above, overwintering root crowns combine with dropped seeds to build persistent stands. In zones 5 and 6, new plants come entirely from seed each year. A Royal Horticultural Society field study in 2014 ranked Verbena bonariensis in the top 10 plants for pollinator value, recording 106 individual insects per 100 flowers per hour, placing it second in the trial only to Echinacea purpurea. The long bloom from June through first frost puts nectar in front of monarch butterflies. Danaus plexippus, as they move through on fall migration routes across the United States. Plant in full sun, free-draining soil, zones 7 through 11 as a short-lived perennial, zones 5 and 6 as an annual that returns from seed. Direct sow in June. Space 18 inches to let the see-through quality work properly. Leave all stems standing through winter. The stems dry and release seeds on cold winds through December and January. Cut everything back to 4 inches in March before new growth starts. Number 5. Evening Primrose. Petals open while you watch. Large yellow flowers on spikes 3 to 5 feet tall, opening fresh at sunset each evening and closing by midday the next day. Blooming from base to tip over 6 to 8 weeks, and making the whole planting look different once the light fades. Echinacea biennis is native across all 48 contiguous U.S. states. In 1619, John Tratiskent the Elder carried seeds from Virginia back to England, where it became a fixture in European physic gardens. A roadside wildflower at home became an exotic abroad. Each plant is a biennial, building a low leaf cluster the first year and flowering in the second. Each spike produces 8,000 to 15,000 seeds. Those seeds remain viable for up to 80 years. Once established, evening primrose does not leave. The seed oil of Echinacea biennis contains gamma-linolenic acid, used in pharmaceutical treatment of eczema and arthritis. A 2000 study in the British Journal of Dermatology found GLA cut eczema severity scores by 31% over 12 weeks. The sphinx moth, Manduca sexta, is the primary pollinator. It is also the species that pollinates agricultural tomatoes. A single evening primrose planting near vegetable beds quietly supports the tomato crop. Full sun to part shade. Soil that drains well. All 48 contiguous zones, 3 through 10. Broadcast seed on the surface in June. Do not bury. Flowers arrive in year 2. No irrigation needed after the first season. Leave 90% of seed on the spikes. Harvest 10% if you want to move plants elsewhere. Do not cut stems until February. Winter birds use the seed as a primary food source through the coldest months. Number 4. Feverfew, Gerard's headache cure, now proven. White daisy-form flowers with flat yellow centers, covering compact 18 to 24-inch plants from June through September, releasing a sharp camphor scent that keeps most insects away. Which is exactly why this plant stands in a kitchen garden completely undamaged while everything around it gets eaten. John Gerard named it the Feverfew in his 1597 Herbal, recommending it for headache and fever. Researchers at King's College London identified the active compound, parthenolide, in 1988 and found it blocks the same pathway as ibuprofen. That is 391 years of being right. Each plant releases thousands of seeds that need bare soil and light to take hold. Wind and rain carry them a short distance from the parent. In zones 5 through 9, new plants appear each season on their own. A randomized controlled trial in The Lancet in 1988 followed 72 patients for 6 months and found Feverfew cut migraine frequency by 24%. A 2004 Cochrane review of 5 trials confirmed a reduction of 2.1 migraine attacks per month. Hoverflies of the Syrphidae family are the primary visitors. They are also secondary pollinators for tomatoes, beans, and cucumbers. So a stand of Feverfew in a kitchen garden earns its place twice over. Full sun to part shade, soil that drains freely, zones 5 through 9. Surface sow seed in June. Germination in 10 to 14 days at 65 to 70 degrees. Split the plant every 3 years to keep it healthy. Keep the dried flower stalks intact until February. Collect and store seed before it drops if you need to relocate plants. Never mulch where Feverfew has self-seeded. Bare soil is what the seeds need to germinate. Number 3. Borage. Caesar's legions called it courage. Star-shaped flowers in a pure cobalt blue, unlike anything else in the garden. On 18 to 24-inch plants with rough leaves covered in fine white hairs. blooming from June through first frost when spent flowers are clipped, with petals and young leaves that taste like cucumber. Pliny the Elder listed borage as a military herb in 77 CE. John Parkinson described it in 1629 as comfort for the heart, used equally in wine, salads, and the kitchen. Those are essentially the same uses across 1,500 years of gardening. Borage seeds drop straight down when ripe, carried only by gravity. They germinate in 7 to 14 days in warm soil. The plant stays within 18 inches of where it started, making it one of the least invasive plants in this entire list. A 2016 study from the University of Reading found Borage officinalis flowers attracted 3 times more bees per square meter than the average garden plant, with visits from 11 native bee species recorded in direct comparison with adjacent plantings. Borage also functions as a companion plant. It attracts predatory wasps of the Ichneumonidae family, which parasitize aphid colonies on neighboring tomato plants. Fields with borage nearby show measurably lower aphid pressure. Full sun, any soil, even poor. Zones 2 through 11, the widest range of any plant in this list. Sow directly in June after the last frost date. Flowers appear in 50 to 60 days. Grows well in containers. Pull seedlings before they reach 4 inches. At that size, they transplant easily wherever you need them. Harvest flowers regularly to slow the spread. At season end, leave 5 or 6 plants to drop seed on their own. Number 2, Lupin, a porter-bred modern horticulture. Dense vertical flower spikes 3 to 5 feet tall, each packed with pea-like blooms across blue, purple, red, orange, yellow, pink, and white. Above palmate leaves with 7 to 11 leaflets set in a perfect circle, giving any border the most structurally dominant vertical line of any plant in the garden. George Russell was a railway porter in York, England. Between 1911 and 1937, he crossed lupins, alone in his allotment with no institutional support. At 71, he presented at the RHS Chelsea Flower Show in 1937, and the response was immediate recognition as a breakthrough. He had never published a scientific paper in his life. The dry seed pods burst open and scatter seeds 6 to 10 feet in every direction when they ripen. Seeds stay viable in soil for 5 to 10 years. In zones 4 through 8, plants that took hold return each spring and push further outward without assistance. A 2021 paper in Soil Biology and Biochemistry measured Lupinus polyphyllus fixing 40 to 60 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare per season, the equivalent of 2 bags of synthetic fertilizer per 1,000 square feet, contributed by rhizobium bacteria living in the root nodules. Bumblebees of the Bombus genus are the only pollinators with a tongue long enough to reach lupin nectar. Honeybees cannot access it. Where lupins are planted, bumblebee numbers within a surrounding 400-meter radius measurably increase within a few growing seasons. Full sun to light shade. Slightly acidic soil, pH 6.0 to 6.5. Zones 4 through 8. Sow in June after nicking seeds with sandpaper or soaking 24 hours. Germination in 14 to 21 days. Do not transplant. Cut finished spikes to mid-stem to encourage a second bloom. Leave the September spikes to set seed. Do not remove them. In zones 4 through 6, the planting becomes self-managing by year 3. Number 1. Foxglove. Village remedy. 9.9 million prescriptions. Spires of tubular bells 4 to 6 feet tall, each spike packed with 20 to 80 purple-pink blooms lined with cream-white spotted interiors 2 inches deep, massed along a shaded border in a vertical column that no other self-seeding plant in any temperate garden can rival for sheer presence. William Withering was a physician in Birmingham, England, treating patients with cardiac dropsy in the 1770s. In 1775, one patient recovered from heart failure after taking a folk remedy from a Shropshire healer named Mother Hutton. Withering spent 10 years recording 163 clinical cases before publishing an account of the foxglove in 1785, the most rigorous clinical investigation of any plant medicine to that date. Digoxin, the compound he identified, is prescribed to 9.9 million Americans annually for atrial fibrillation and listed on the WHO Essential Medicines list as of 2023. Each flower spike produces between 1 and 2 million seeds, a figure measured in controlled laboratory counts. The seeds are dust-fine and scatter on the slightest wind. A single foxglove fills a 15-foot radius within 5 years. The plant is a biennial, low rosette in year 1, full spike in year 2. A 2019 systematic review in the European Heart Journal examined 52 randomized trials covering 21,570 patients, and found digoxin produced a statistically significant reduction in heart failure hospitalizations. The way it works was described by Withering in 1785 from patient records alone. The long-tongued bumblebee, Bombus hortorum, is the only pollinator physically capable of reaching nectar at the base of the foxglove bell. Bees that enter transfer pollen to 3 or 4 additional bells in the same visit, making every foxglove encounter exceptionally productive. All parts are toxic if eaten. Keep this plant well away from children and pets, part shade to full shade. This is the only plant in this list that thrives where other tall plants cannot grow. Moist, humus-rich soil. Zones 4 through 9. Sow seed on the surface in June. Seeds need light to germinate, so leave them uncovered. Space young plants 18 to 24 inches apart in fall. Leave all spent spikes until seeds ripen in August and September. Shake each spike gently over bare ground to direct seed fall, then remove it. In zones 7 and above, perennial forms exist, but the 2-year plants produce the most impressive spikes. Expect 20 to 30% to shift position each season. And there you have it. 13 plants that plant themselves. For shaded spots, foxglove is the only plant on this list that genuinely prefers low light, and it produces the most striking vertical spike of any of them. For full sun, California poppy, Blackeyed Susan, and Borage all perform without irrigation and return from seed each June on their own. For the gardener who works across different conditions, purple coneflower, Valerian, and Feverfew cover both sun and partial shade and carry the garden from midsummer through autumn without a single replanting. 3 of the plants here, California poppy, evening primrose, and borage, are rarely on mainstream American garden lists. They deserve to be. Pick one. Sow it this June. Come back in the comments next fall and tell us what happened. Subscribe and leave a like if this was useful. Drop a comment with your USDA zone and which plant you are starting with.